Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Lightfoot Effects. I just wanted to make this pre-video before we actually start the real video. So I just wanted to give you all a heads up. This, as you may have noticed, is about a 2-hour video. It ended up going a lot longer than I thought it would. So I decided to keep it all in there and edit it as best we could. I just want to quickly tell you, I have set everything up to be chapters, so you can skip through the parts that you're interested in. Just click on the chapters below if you don't want to hear all the talking, you just want to hear the tone comparisons. We got them labeled. Right before we made this video, there was no new update for the ACS1, so there's the new ACS1 2.0 update. That is not what we're using in this video. We're using the update that came out right before that. The layout of this video is going to be, you're going to hear David talk about his guitar first. And then we're going to go into comparing the AC30 style amps. Then we're going to compare the Fender style amps. And then we'll compare the Benson style. And when we do the Benson, it won't have the Ruby or the Dream because they can't do that. And what we're doing is we bought the tone factor models, and we're going to be comparing how all of those, the tone factor sounds across all of those pedals. So they should sound as close as they can to each other, resembling the same amp. So instead of cutting this video into multiple parts, I just wanted to make this quick video, just once again telling you, click the chapters below to get through if you're getting antsy and you just want to hear the demos. All right, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoy this content. Hey everyone, welcome to Lightfoot Effects. This is Jay Lightfoot, and today we have a special guest with us. His name is
David Johnson.
David Johnson. Yeah, David is a really great friend and a guitarist that I've known for a while. Where he's done his time, where he's, you know, led at churches and played and served on worship teams. We have very similar backgrounds, and he is looking to build a new pedal board. Right. Yeah, you haven't played this guitar for like a year, is my understanding.
I hate saying that because it looks far too beautiful to have not touched it in a while. Yeah. But yeah, it's been a long time, and I'm excited to get to try out some new stuff.
I remember when you bought this guitar, it was like 2 years ago, maybe? Like
I think it was actually in the pandemic. It was during 2020.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I saw it on Reverb and had heard a lot of great things about 90s Strats. Yeah. And specifically their American vintage.
That's sick.
So yeah.
Everyone, so this is an American vintage 94.
Yeah.
It plays really good. And it's like a closet. I guess you'd call it a closet clean finish, closet classic maybe.
Yeah.
This is probably considered vintage now, I think. I know there's like a cutoff, or
I think it's after like 20 some years or something like that.
It's getting close.
It becomes,
yeah, it's clean.
Yeah.
And we actually are running, because I did work on it, he's running the Lambertones triple shots. Great Strat pickups. They're inspired by John Mayer's I'm going to botch it. I think it's like a 1964 Strat.
Yeah, actually that sounds pretty
I think that's what it was. Yeah. They got a cool bridge. You can kind of get some telly, meaty sounds on there, but it's also really pristine and clean.
This is which I think we've already mentioned, but it's a Fender American Vintage Strat. It is a 94 original. I got it. Everything was original inside of it. Even the wiring for the pickup selectors, it was back in the 60s. They actually just had the 3-way switch on it. And then if you wanted to get that out of phase position, you could kind of coax it into, being in between. And I thought about staying with it like that for a while, but inevitably, or ultimately, I just, liked...
it's a hassle.
Yeah, it is a hassle. But this is ocean turquoise. It is, from what I can understand, it's been one of the rarer colors. You typically in the 60s, when it's emulated, it's emulated after a 62. So it's a 62 American Vintage reissue. And typically, the 60s, like you have your Fiesta Red, there was like Olympic White, obviously your 3-way or a 3.
Yeah. The 3-color sunburst.
The 3-color
burst, or whatever they call it.
Yeah, you had your 3-color sunburst. But yeah, I really love the color. And the mods that we did to it is we put a no-load tone pot in both tone knobs here. So essentially what that is
cool. It's cool stuff.
It's your cool factor. When it kind of clicks into place if you've never played a guitar with one installed in it, and essentially it removes the sweep for the tone knob, right? So it's basically the brightest that it could possibly be. It's like taking your tone knob to 11. It takes the tone knob completely out of the circuit. So like a tone knob naturally has a rating like 250K, like it's cutting highs. Even just being there, when you have your tone knob and it's open all the way, it's still cutting a little bit of high end. And if you removed it from the circuit, like a guitar that has no tone knobs would be super bright. So it just does that. When it clicks, it's like it's not there anymore. Yeah, and it's real nice because it feels like, you have. I like the control that I have with it. I personally have trouble sometimes with the just Strats in general, not specifically this one, but they're just very bright, and so it really helps with that. And then we also chose to do a treble bleed on the volume. So it's nice because I can, let's see. You're already on the Benson. Yeah, well, right where I should be. So there's that high end in there, and a lot of times when you don't have the treble bleed on the volume, when you turn your volume down, it can get really muddy. Yeah. And when I was leading worship, I did lead with electric a lot, and I really liked having the treble bleed on there because for dynamic in different parts of the song, I could use that volume knob and still retain the high end clarity and the treble, and everything. So sure. Still, it doesn't get muddy. It's just, even when it's so quiet, it's like you can still hear the highs. Yeah. So, other than that, the last big thing that we did was we put a different bridge in it. And this is a Super V Blade Runner. And it is super solid. Yeah. I mean, I remember when we first put it on. You have a Gretsch, and I remember when you first put it on, you likened it to like having like a Bigsby. It feels like a Bigsby, but it looks like a Strat tremolo. It just has your typical arm when it's in. Yeah, but like it barely goes. Like it just feels smooth. It's not like a wow. Like it just, and it feels sturdy and hard, kind of like as if you have a Bigsby and you're just gently pushing it. Yeah. It stays in tune very well. And sometimes I throw the arm on there, sometimes I take it off, but whatever you're feeling. And just because I have the floor for a moment, I one of the reasons why it's kind of my dream Strat, because I love a neck that is not just like kind of white. It's not super. That's right. This is yellow. What they call an amber, like a honey finish, like a honey amber finish on it. So it's not sanded or anything. And I'm kind of as we've recently learned, an anomaly. I really like a nice finished neck. This one isn't sticky to me. That's a good quality. I'm not doing a bunch of shredding. I like the way that it feels in my hands. Yeah. So. But what we're going to be doing today is so he's building a new pedal board, and he needs to start with an amp, and we are blessed to have every amp modeler almost in existence. We have the Iridium, as you may know. Most of you know the ACS1, the Ruby, can't go wrong with that. And then recently we even got the brand new Tonex, which if you don't know, that is a Kemper in pedal form. It's a beast of its own. And the only one we're really missing is probably the, I'd say like the Line 6 HX Stomp. I couldn't get my hands on one of those quick enough, but I don't know if it falls in the same category because it takes a lot of tweaking and dialing to set up, where all these are meant to be quick and easy. Even the Tonex is made to be easy. You just have the knobs and that's it. So we're going to run in the Cali 76. He's got a King of Tone. We have every amp pedal set to one of these buttons here. Nothing else is in there. They're all on their own. And then at the very end of the chain, we're running the tried and true Strymon El Capistan, one of the best tape delays. It sounds delicious. And then we're going into the Goodwood Audio long line, which is just a
line isolator DI. We're gonna start with the AC30s. Every single one of these pedals are running the Tone Factor IRs from Tone Factor, David Hislop and Kenyon Reed's company. We're going to start with the AC30 ones. They're all set to the 545 mics. And then what we'll do is we'll run through the Fender mics as well with the 545s. And then we even got the Benson Chimera 545 settings as well. So we'll run through all three of those. And then he's going to decide which one he likes the best, and it's kind of a good comparison of all of these. And he's coming in fresh. He's kind of been out of the game. Like he's like, what is this? And he's like, when did this come out? Like he's like, when he left, it was probably just those two.
It's also fresh to me. It's probably fair to say, even though you couldn't get your hands on an HX Stomp, I did used to run that on my board. So I'm at least familiar with modeling in that sense, and so this will be all new to me. So there will be a fair kind of a base, like to start from. So.
Yeah, and then remember, he hasn't played in about a year, so this is the first.
I gotta
just keeping his
blow all the dust off my fingers.
So, yeah, super exciting. I guess we'll start with on through the switches here. So I think the first one is the ACS1.
Okay.
So what are your thoughts on that one? So that's the ACS1. We left it at the default settings that Tone Factor recommends. I haven't changed anything. Everything right now is set at their default. So maybe we'll run through them all without changing anything.
Yeah. I think right off the bat, to my ears, it does sound like it's coming out of a little box. I think that the tone is pretty even and accurate. But I do hear kind of more of a modeling sense than I hear. Like if I were to close my eyes, I don't know that I would hear like an amp.
Yeah. Maybe we try it with some higher gain drive. We'll just go right to the red side of the King of Tone.
All right.
Well, I think that was a bit.
Yeah, I mean,
felt that one a little more.
A little bit, yeah. I think it definitely takes pedals decently.
Yeah, takes pedals great. For what it is, even if it does sound modeling, I mean, in the room, it still sounds really good.
It does. It sounds pretty full.
We'll have to hear the other ones now. Let's try the next one. I think is the Iridium, right?
Yeah, and all of these we're doing the AC.
Right now they're all set to the AC30 Korg era, and they're all at the actual recommended settings that Tone Factor says to make it as accurate as it was when they captured it. So you're supposedly hearing the most accurate representation of their Korg era AC30.
Okay, cool. So this second one's the Iridium, you said?
That'll be the Iridium.
All right.
I feel like that one had less gain than the first one.
It did, yeah. And that felt that I think it definitely didn't help coming from the King of Tone because once that was off and then we went straight to that.
You're just like, it's all
super
gone.
Thin.
That's a good selling point for the King of Tone.
Yeah.
It just feels so good when it's on.
Okay, so I'm just going to switch back and forth between those for a second just to kind of hear
let's hear them. you think of them now?
All right, so I'm actually going to go back on what I said.
This is how it is in the guitar world. I've heard that so many times.
I thought that I had an idea of what was happening, and I had no idea what was about to happen. I will say that Walrus Audio is actually doing a really great job with that. I feel like it takes pedals. I shouldn't say pedals. I think it's taking this drive. It's playing with it nicer.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit more organic. I don't know why that would be. You might be able to speak more to that.
It might be a difference of the settings on the pedals too and how they were captured. Since we're using the Tone Factor IRs, which is called tone matching. So they're putting on I don't know the full science behind it, but they're filling in essentially the frequencies that are missing in the wave to make it sound like if you were to compare it with the real amp, they would match I believe they would match the patterns so that they almost sound identical. But I think when we're tweaking them, we'll see how close we can get them to sound. But by the default, I think they are a little different. Probably the character, the model amp each one uses is a different AC30. But yeah, let's try the Ruby now. The Ruby's a tried and true. A lot of people like that one. That's the only one that doesn't have the IR on it. We're actually just using the stock greenback because it can't load IRs, but it sounds really good on its own. So let's go to the Ruby.
All right, cool. And also, I don't know about you. When I'm testing out, especially amp modeling, I like to just kind of do some simple chords to feel how it's going to be responsive. And
actually, I think our viewers prefer that. Actually, I've heard some of you in the comments say that you like when we just play chords instead of just the little finger picking, noodling stuff. So you get more of that punchiness out of it.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, this is the Ruby.
Thoughts?
I feel like we started out with the ACS1 as being pretty impressive. And then the Iridium actually was one that I thought might be a step higher, but I'm liking the ACS1.
It's the Strymon, but it's the name.
I'm not gonna say
it's like surely this must be the best because it's a Strymon.
Yeah. The Ruby, though, it's more nuanced to me. I feel like it's more nuanced than the ACS1. I'm actually wanting to try it a little bit more with some more effects. Maybe we'll do the drive first, and then we can add on
some drive. Sure.
Same thing.
Something very pleasing about that one.
Yeah, that felt like I had an amp behind me.
It had that effect where it feels like it sounds like the tubes were just starting to saturate.
Yeah, it had that natural sag to it.
Yeah, they did a very good job with those, and I see why they're very popular on a lot of boards. A lot of people seem like they're running Rubies or Dreams. And I forgot to mention, we're on the Brilliant channel, and we're using, I think I already said already, we're using the greenback, but we're running the Brilliant. There's also a normal channel, which darkens it up quite a bit, but it doesn't let you use the EQ. It just acts as a single. I think it would be a little too dark, so we'll probably leave it on the Brilliant.
Also, I don't know if this is fair to say. Sometimes I have found that I can have a preconceived notion about a pedal before I even play it, and I think it has to do with the presentation. The way that they've designed it and laid it out and everything. And I honestly, it's just very tasteful. I think that
let's take a moment. The
looks,
aluminum. I don't know if you've even touched it yet.
No,
You've seen
I mean,
that's like full on. They like it's like aluminum or metal or something. And
yeah.
They even like painted the metal like some sort of cool.
Oh yeah.
Red.
It's like not even like a. I thought.
Yeah,
that might be
it's
a
none of
plate
it's plastic.
Okay.
It's heavy too. If you lift it,
Yeah.
it's heavy duty. You can drop that thing off a building and it'll probably work still.
It reminds me of like the faceplate of like an amp or something.
Yeah.
Like it's very.
That's what I think their whole thing I notice is like, you can't put IRs on it. They're like, no, this is what you get. Like we have done. This is we're gonna give you really great sound with what we have. You don't need to tweak any of it. Yeah, I don't even know I can't remember what mics they're using. They are using mics. If you go look up in the manual, I think one of them's like a Royer 121, like and then I think they're using like an SM57 on one of them. And depending what cab you pick, you get the mic that they picked, and that's it. You can't change it.
Yeah.
But they're all dialed in really. They picked like the best one out of all of they tested a bunch from what I've read, and there's a whole history on how this was made. If you go online, I can't remember the maker's name, but if you Google him, he's done a whole video where he talks about it. And they like scoured the ends of the earth to find like the most vintage AC30.
Yeah.
And I think when we get into the Dream, he tested tons of them. Like I think like some of Joe Bonamassa's maybe it was, like I think they went to like Norman's Rare Guitars, like UAFX, Universal Audio. They were like going through all these amps to try and find like the one, and then they found him like that's the one. So it's not just a generic AC30. They found a specific one from I don't remember where it was, but it was like something made it like the one, and they modeled it after.
Well, that's smart because I feel like a lot of times it makes it more of an instrument than like a platform. You know what I mean? Because like with the Iridium, the ACS1, I think even, or HX Stomp, like you can load in whatever you want, and it's got all that tweakability and customization and everything. But I think that sometimes like you can get a little overzealous with what you're trying to do, and then maybe you don't end up being happy in the long run. And I think what this does is it's like an amp. It's like if you're gonna buy a matchless, like what you're getting. Like people just don't stumble upon like, oh, like my first amp, I'm gonna buy a matchless. You know what I mean? Like like what you're looking for if you buy a matchless, and what you're looking for if you buy like these boutique amps. And so I think this is really cool because it's staying true to that, and they're treating it more as like an instrument. Like you pull a Strat out because you're going to play funk, and you're going to play 80s, and you're going to play all this sparkly stuff, and it's its purpose. It's not, you don't use it as a dual. It's not like a Gibson, a 335, and a Les Paul on a Telly, and all these things or whatever. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And then there is a caveat to these because I've played it a lot. I've said it in my other video. They modeled the amp so well on these that you can get some disgusting tones out of them too if you set them wrong. Like some vintage amps sound just terrible depending how you set them. Like they'll get all flubby, and this has all of that too, but you can dial it into a sweet spot. You just have a lot of power in here and control, and you can make it sound good and bad.
So I see it says preset on there. It's just one preset?
You can save as many as you want from I can tell. I have 10 in there already. I don't know what the max is, and it has Bluetooth. So what I do is when I go to a set, I have a preset for every guitar, and I just open the app on my phone and I load up the preset for that guitar, and it just changes it on there.
Really?
Yeah. And then right now we're on like this is just non-preset mode, so it keeps it all there. But if I click that, it'll load my preset, and then.
So you're saying you can do it on your phone?
You do it on the phone though. Yeah, it saves the preset to the phone. It's on there, I think, but the phone taps into it with Bluetooth, and the phone acts as a remote control. So you're like, it loads all your presets, but it's getting them from the pedal, and then you pick the one, and then it loads it. So I do that like literally I'm playing the Telly today, so I'll turn these on, and then I'll go on my phone, I'll open the app, and I'll load the Telly presets, and then they just blink for a minute and change. So it's deceiving. It looks deceivingly simple, but it also has like this underlying technology. So you can have like all these guitars saved on it, or different effects. Yeah,
that's awesome.
And you can even change what these do in the app. You can make this like I don't want to say boost, but something like, I think you can change what it does. And I can't remember what. It might have been like a boost or something. Don't quote me on that. The internet can be ruthless when you get things wrong.
Yeah.
So
Universal Audio is going to come after you for that.
And then the last one we'll want to try real quick, do that same thing, is the Tonex. It's also running the tone factor. But what's different about this is not a modeler. This is capturing an exact copy of the amp like a Kemper. It's like that same level of a Kemper, only it fits on a pedal board. So when you start to tweak things, it can kind of change it a little bit because it doesn't know how that amp should sound if you increase the treble. So this is more of a post EQ. Right now we're set to the exact copy and the exact settings they had. So this will be the Korg era AC30. So let's give it a listen. Let's give it up for the sustain of the Cali 76. On all of these.
Seriously, it's doing all the behind the scenes work for my Strat. Oh man, well,
what do you think of that one?
I mean, I feel like it has the same kind of nature as the Ruby.
Okay.
They did
a very good job on that one as well.
So tell me again the difference between, this one you can load whatever captures, IRs.
If you're the kind of guy who wants your own amp, let's say I have a Bad Cat sitting over there, and it's my Bad Cat, and I like how it sounds when I mic it, and I want that exact sound, I would buy this. You'd have to get a separate component they sell. It's called a capture box, and you can use this to capture that exact sound of my Bad Cat mic'd up, and then when I compare them, they should sound identical through the speakers, like every nuance of that specific Bad Cat. Unlike where, if you buy this Ruby, you're getting that AC30 that they modeled. You're not going to get your friend's AC30 or someone else's. You're getting that one from 1963 that they modeled, which is still really good. You're going to get what we're getting in this test anyways is we're getting the Bethel AC30, the Korg era one, which is also theirs is really good, with a greenback speaker. This capture was theirs using the 545, the same mic that these two are all emulating. Yeah. But this is probably, in my opinion, the closest to it. But actually, I've never played their amp, so I can't say. But I'm assuming that's probably the closest representation we have because of this being a capture where these are modelers. Yeah. Interesting. How do you feel? How did it take the pedal, do you think? Getting drive.
So we got to turn the pedal on still with that one.
I turned it on for you.
Oh, we did turn it on?
He may not have noticed.
I probably didn't notice. So let's try that again. There is a really nice breakup just from the IR, whatever the capture is on that. You know, I mean, it sounds like it has, I guess, for lack of a better term, just the characteristic of an amp that, you know, that people are looking for when it's, you know, doing its natural, like, sounds like it's pushing air, like it's just...
You know what I noticed? It's like, it was... when he had this on for these others, it made them a little louder and more distorted, but on this one, it didn't get much louder. It just got more grainy, I guess, maybe like a... I haven't played a real amp in like 3 years, so I'm trying to remember if they get louder. They, like, I mean, the edge of the break, like they do get louder, but they start to compress and not really get louder. They just get more distorted.
And this is probably going to sound so just regurgitated, but I really prefer amp gain over like pedal gain, unless, you know, like, I've had stuff that have emulated like a Rat before, or like you have like the 1981, or I had a Sick As for a while, and you know, there's things that you can for certain applications, but when it comes to like just like chords and stuff, like just a really good compressor and a really great amp.
Want that raw,
I just
power.
love that, the unadulterated just grit.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that sounds really good that way. I think that pedals obviously are your tone enhancers, and they shouldn't be your tone, like the meat of your tone. So for all, I guess maybe for purists, they would prefer the Tonex, you know what I mean? Like just wanting something that is going to give you, you know, your two main instruments are your guitar, and like if you're a guitarist, right? So like you got your guitar, you need a really good guitar, and need a really solid amp.
Sure.
So
would you call yourself a purist?
I wouldn't call myself much of anything. I am very particular. I'll say that.
That's why he's here today. He's very particular.
I would say if that's what a purist is, then you could probably call me that. But I also love, I think maybe if we're talking about purists, they don't. I'm thinking of like your uncle who lives like, he plays like a blues junior, and he's like, oh, I'm not putting any pedals on it.
Purist.
So I think I just have a very I hold a reverence for the tone of an amp, just a really good amp, and so but it's not easy to do that, like in depending on where you live, and like sometimes like we don't always have like a place to really crank it and like play, like if you're not playing out somewhere. I think that this is a really accurate alternative.
So what do you think of these out of the four? I mean, which one do you feel like you're gravitating towards?
Well, I know that I have felt the most organic. I have felt the most organic nature from the Ruby and the Tonex. I'm just gonna kind of we're at the point now where we can tweak these. I think we left them at the settings where Tone Factor recommends they sound the closest to the amp. And that goes for the Tonex too. But what we'll do now is try and mold them to our liking. And see how they sound. So I'm going to get down here. I'll be just messing with these while he plays. We'll try one at a time, I think. And maybe we'll even throw some. We haven't even used that yet. So let's start with the ACS1. All right.
that's about where I would probably run it anymore, and it's probably going to start, I don't know, exploding.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, that's probably a good thing to look for in these is their ceiling, I guess you could say. Like I guess where, what kind of territory you can go into with them, like push them to until they're...
do you feel like, you seemed like you enjoyed yourself.
I did. I actually really did enjoy that.
You were like, oh, I forgot.
I was like, okay, am I going to eat all my words that I said?
And then pricing is something I totally forgot about, but I believe all of these are in the similar $400-ish range.
Even the ACS1?
Even this is $400, believe it or not.
I imagine,
this
from
seems
looking
like it
at
would be like 800, but it's not.
Strymon has trained me to expect like 600 to 800 out of stuff like that.
Yeah, so. These are all, I don't have the prices, but if I'm remembering correctly, I think none of these were over $500. If any of them were, I think it was the Ruby, but I think they're all like $420-ish. They're all in that range. This I know for sure is $400 because I just bought it. But nice. So yeah, that was the ACS1. Let's try the Iridium. We'll do the same thing.
Okay.
What did you think of that one? That was with the little bit clean and a little bit with the King of Tone.
I am standing by what I said earlier, which if I remember correctly, it's that I liked the way that the ACS1 took a drive more than the Iridium.
I think so.
I think that once you add the drive, it just kind of starts to, as you would say, fall apart.
So we've got both of them set how we think we like them. Try just one big overdriven chord with each real quick, just to quickly compare them. So go to we'll do ACS1. And then we'll do the Iridium.
Is that this one?
Mm-hmm. Whoa! Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah,
that was a lot boxier to me.
Yes, the first thing that came to my head was like if ACS1 is like current gen.
Oh, like current gen.
Like
right.
Iridium sounds last gen.
Yeah, which is weird. There was a time when he'll remember I swore that I hated this pedal and I preferred the Iridium.
You were quite adamant.
Yeah, but something I know they've patched the heck out of that. There's I just updated it today. There's 4 updates for it that I needed to install, and they were all gain related and a lot. I've heard that people say they dropped the gain a lot to give it way more headroom, and it doesn't break up as much naturally. You gotta have pedals push it more. The gain can go, it's pretty high and it stays pretty clean, but it's right where I would want it. It still breaks up. It's just you can't play metal with it or hard rock. But I think that has something to do with what we're feeling. It just feels like it has loads of headroom. And
yeah, it does. That's super.
I'm surprised by that. Yeah.
It sounds big. It sounds clear.
And I mean that's a win-win. Look how small it is too. I love how it takes up less real estate. Man, yeah, the old me would have been like, no, I don't like the ACS1.
We're just these pedals are making a fool of us today.
So. All right, let's try. We'll mess with the Ruby now. So we'll go and play through the Ruby.
Okay. Oh my god, I did not want that to end.
It kept going. I was like, it's going a little
I was
longer.
like, if I keep going, then it's just gonna give away that I really.
So that
favor
one
that,
was there's something to that one, and this is once again, this is coming from a guy who's like been out of the game for a year. Like he has not been like following any of this stuff.
No, yeah, I haven't.
He's like, oh, what's a? He's like, what? Universal Audio made a pedal? He was like, okay, cool. I was like, yeah, they made an amp modeler.
I've not touched a guitar.
So, yeah.
I have not had any. I don't own any pedals currently.
Yeah. So he's totally unbiased about this.
Very much so. Very much so. Yeah.
And what's also funny is I forgot to mention he's not an AC30 guy at all. If I remember, like we used to play real ones and. He was just like, oh, I hate, like, just thought he wanted like a big low end, and it's hard to get on.
Yeah, we had multiple 6TBs.
Yeah,
and
we did.
They just
back then we didn't know a lot about what we were doing.
Yeah, man, yeah, that even with the drive on top of the Ruby, at first just hearing the Ruby by itself. Mm-hmm. I was like, that feels really good. I like the way that it sounds on its own, especially with the natural gain on it. And I think, personally, the pedal did what I think it should do with an amp, which it didn't completely change it once we turned it on. I think the pedal kind of helped the ACS1 in some respect. The Iridium didn't take the pedal as well, but with the Ruby, it was already something really good. And then turning the pedal on just added those that extra little grit on there, but it didn't completely like make the tone. It's still the Ruby that's the source of all the tone.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
cool. Well, let's hear the Tonex now.
We'll
change that one a bit and see what we can get out of it.
All right. I want to know what you heard, or else I don't want to sound like I'm just...
No, I want... You know enough. He knows enough.
Okay, so how about this? Let's leave the King of Tone off. I'm going to play the same thing.
Let's jump between them. Yeah, sure. Let's start with the Ruby. I'll do that. Go for it. I know what I heard.
I think I know what I heard. I would say that the Tonex sounds like a very well mixed amp. if I'm hearing an amp in a recording, it's contained.
Yeah.
It's not spilling all over the place, and I know that's what we like with like tube amps and that sort of thing, where it's just kind of like it's got those imperfections and those. It's just kind of like boiling over. But it does sound it's very focused. It feels contained, and it sounds like a well mixed amp. The Ruby, I think it could be that in the room with the monitors, it does feel like an amp behind me. It sounds a little less tamed to my ears.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I was gonna say, right away, the Ruby was more. It had a lot of more high end and almost the Voxy ice pickiness at first.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to get rid of some of that.
Yeah.
And I think I got some of it out of there just by using the cut. I was thinking the AC30 sounded more. Yeah, something about it. They're different years. This is the Korg era, so I think they're less bright and more mid-rangey and gnarly. And then this is like a 63? Yeah, that's what it says, 63 Vox. And I think they were a lot brighter and more rumbly, and they just kind of break apart when you crank them. I could kind of hear that. Both are really great. I think it's going to be up to preference on. What we were hearing though, when you said this one sounds so polished, it's because all these knobs that I adjust are post EQ knobs, so they're not actually changing the amp. They're just doing cuts. They're cutting highs and cutting lows. It's not actually like it's not a built-in amp, like a preamp section or a tone stack. That's the word I was looking for. It's just an EQ. It's EQing the amp after, as if I threw an EQ pedal on there and then I started adjusting it. And that's to preserve the amp tone, because they don't want to. I think and then the gain, from my understanding, just cranks the level of your guitar to push the amp harder instead of crank amp gain.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's how they do it, because since it's modeling, and that's kind of how the Kemper does it too. So
I think it would be fair to say that if the Tonex, or probably with these four pedals, the Tonex and the Ruby are probably the ones dueling it out.
That's what I would think.
In my opinion. I think maybe if somebody wanted a very polished, dialed in tone that could take pedals very well, maybe the Tonex. And if somebody is looking for that amp in the room kind of feeling, then there's some qualities about the Ruby that I think are very enticing as well.
Sure. So which one are you going to pick if you build a pedal board here?
If I build a pedal board,
if you had to pick an AC30, which one would you go with?
I honestly, I'm just going to go with my gut. I would say I would go with the Ruby.
All right.
I really like, I think that the application of it is, would be in my own home studio or office or whatever. And I think that having that kind of amp in the room sound, that I'm able to kind of, get more flexibility out of it. I don't have to have the amp cranked. Not everybody can just get a 6TB and put it in their home and just play it,
Sure.
So I think the Ruby really entices me because of its just kind of, I like that imperfection just kind of spilling over amp sound, you know what I mean? It makes me feel, I feel like I was really jamming with that pedal the most. When we had it on and then even turned on the King of Tone, I'm following my ears here and how it felt while I was playing it. It just felt very dynamic, and but also, like I said, there's this untamed quality to it that's just kind of I think what you look for in a really good tube amp.
Wow. So. Yeah, I would agree. It definitely captures that tube ampness. And cool. So I think we got that one figured out. For him, the Ruby's the winner. You want to know what my opinion is? Probably. I'd probably go with the Tonex, but I could be biased because that's my newest edition, and I'll probably be running that for a little bit. But recently, I've been very impressed with it. But up until then, I was running the Ruby also. along with the Dream, and I would happily go back to those. Who knows? I may after running the Tonex for a little bit, so we'll see.
So I guess final question about the Tonex is you have 2 of them.
I do, yeah, bought 2.
So is that like the Ruby in the sense that it can do 1 amp?
Yep, you can only do 1 amp with the Tonex.
Okay.
Yeah, and all it does are amps. It's not an all-in-one. It's just supposed to be an amp in a box, and it comes with a feature set. There's something called like ToneNet, and you can get any amp in the world that someone has uploaded for free. Anyone who profiles their own can put it on there, and then you can just download them for free. Or you can go to special websites like Tone Factor and buy their capture and then load it on.
And see, even just hearing that, like that is a very big, like I can see the draw in that, like to be able to just grab any amp that you want, you know, and to have that capture.
I believe, ToneNet has Joe Bonamassa' Dumble.
Oh my gosh.
They actually captured it, and it's for free. If you buy it, you get to play his, not just a Dumble, it's Joe Bonamassa' Dumble. So that's the special thing with it, is you're getting the actual amp of the amp you want. Like, I love the Benson Chimera. I've always wanted one. I've played one, never like owned one. I would love to play one. Like, I would love to bring it with me without buying one, and now I can. I can run it on the Tonex.
Yeah.
And that's an amp we're going to test. We have Benson Chimera profiles as well. So
nice.
I think next we'll go into the we're going to go into the Fender, and we'll start that. So what we did is we have gone ahead and swapped out the Ruby with the Dream. Once again, we're doing all tone factor. I've got the Fender ProSonic here. Fender ProSonic on the ACS1, Fender ProSonic on the Tonex, and then the Dream is its own thing. Since we can't do that. The IRs are locked in. So the Dream is a 65
blackface.
Blackface,
right?
I believe. I think that's why it's black.
Deluxe reverb?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
He's a very familiar with Fender man. I'm the AC30 guy. He's the Fender guy. So this is his turf now.
I didn't start out a Fender guy. I always really liked Vox, and I think obviously like the people that you listen to, the artists and that sort of thing really influenced that. And then I think as I continued to find my taste and expression through guitars, I just found that I think the Fender was just a nicer platform for that. So I've always really liked the really glassy, chimey, Strat-like guitars that can still do the some grit and that sort of thing, but just a fat Fender, just
it's America.
Just that rounded tone, yeah. So
I guess we'll start with the same order, the ACS1 on the far left here, and then we'll just have you play clean. Whoops, and then we'll also, when he's done, we'll throw in with the overdrive.
All right, so this is the ACS1.
ACS1.
Right.
What do you think of the clean tones? This is just what they recommend for the tone factor to get the most accurate ProSonic. And the Fender ProSonic's not your typical Fender. It's kind of an offshoot. I believe they added more like mids. I think it makes it a little more voxy, but with the Fender sound.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna hold.
Sure.
I'll
last
hold
time
back.
you jumped the gun last time.
Yeah, I think I've learned my lesson a little bit. So let's see how.
I already got you with the King of Tone on.
Yeah, I think in the same way, the pedals are kind of enhancing what it's already doing. Yeah, I would say I think that I was more impressed with the AC30 on the ACS1 than I am this one. But
maybe that'll change when we adjust the settings later.
Yeah, it could.
Sure.
It could. It still has a chance.
Now we're going to go to the Strymon. Or, gosh, dang it. There we go. Okay. And this time we'll probably run through clean, and then I'll add the drive, and then run through, and then we'll talk about it.
All right. Interestingly enough, the Iridium has impressed me with the Fender.
Okay. And the ironic thing about that is just when I've been on the forums, the people that dog on the Iridium most is they say the Fender is its weakest model. So
yeah,
that's funny.
That is funny, yeah.
But I do agree. It was clearer, and that might be the settings of the two. But
yeah.
The ACS1, I forgot to mention to you guys that even though the knobs are at where they're at, I have the presets saved where the settings are supposed to be. So those of you who are like, no, that's not it. Those aren't the right. I looked at the manual. Those aren't in the right positions. They're there. I just saved them. So they're all, it looks like they might not be right, but they're set right to where Tone Factor recommends them. So, and same with the Iridium right now where it's at. But
yeah, can we no overdrive, just switch back and forth between those two, because I want to know if my ears are lying to me.
So here's the ACS1, and then we'll switch back to the Strymon as we go between them.
There's maybe my ear, I don't know. I think that I hear more definition in the Iridium with that one. The Fender through the ACS1 sounds a little boxy to me, but I don't know.
Okay, sure.
Who knows? Maybe I just can't get over universal audio.
He's already thinking like, oh, okay, now I gotta play. He's already developing a bias.
Yeah.
I'm just joking. Cool. Yeah, we'll try the Dream now. I'm sure you're excited for that one.
Yeah, couldn't have come soon enough.
Yeah, this is its own thing. Once again, you can't change the IRs on it or anything. And I think we're on the whatever this top one is. So this one's set to the GB25 speaker, and I believe that's just a classic, really good Fender speaker. It seems to be the one most people use. So I just picked that one because it's like one of the most popular ones. So we'll try it out.
It has that gnarliness to it. I don't know. It has that gnarliness to it that feel like I'm just repeating myself, but I don't know.
The imperfections of a real amp. Is that what you're trying to think again? Yeah.
I can hear that Fender amp compression that they do really well. That you would normally find, you know.
And you'll notice we have the volume really low because if you go any higher, it starts to blow itself up like an old 65 Fender Deluxe. I haven't ever played a 65. I don't know many people who get to, but
you used to own a custom 68, right?
Yeah, yep, it was a 68. Yeah. This is supposed to be like an actual they modeled a 1965, but yeah, I had a 68, which breaks up a lot quicker.
Yeah.
The 65 is the cleaner of the two. And I've been told that the old 65 sound disgusting when you crank them. And so I'm curious to hear how, this will be with heavier drive. But some people love that. It's just like an old vintagey, just blow up in your face.
Yeah, and with that, I guess the 65 is a better pedal platform.
Yeah, it's for the player who wants a clean amp, I think, and then you let your pedals change your drive.
Yeah.
When they built it, they weren't expecting people to drive it, so it wasn't like it just doesn't have the components to make it sound, modern, I guess is the word. When you overdrive it, it just sounds vintage.
Yeah,
which can be not to everyone's liking, but. We'll try that soon here. Let's go into the Tonex.
Okay.
And this is back to the ProSonic, just like the Iridium and the ACS1. Everything's at stock where they want it.
That sounded really good.
That one pleases me.
That one does. Yeah, that scratches that itch. It is so just refined of a sound.
That's what we said about the ACS30 too. So maybe that's the Tonex thing. It's just these are professional graded captures too. So I mean, who knows? If I downloaded some random dude's capture, it could very well be nastier and less processed. So I guess studioed up. I don't know what they do with these. Apparently this one's just a clean capture. They don't do any processing or adjustments, but you can get them with that too. They offer those. This is supposed to be their just raw, just a ProSonic mic'd with a 545 mic.
I think it'd be interesting if you ever have the chance to compare, like if you were to do your own capture.
I want to capture the bad cat.
Yeah, and then if you could compare
maybe, yeah. Might do that someday, but there are videos on YouTube where I've watched someone do that with their DC30, and he went back and forth just instantly with a foot switcher, the real one, and the capture, and they were just to my ears through the YouTube how YouTube processes it, they sounded identical.
Yeah,
and he was literally like, he noticed like the smallest thing, and he's like, it doesn't even bother me. It was like he's like that. What I'm hearing the difference of it was just like some slight different, just EQ cut, but it was like barely like. He's like, that's my amp. He was like, this is my DC30, and now you can download his for free on the ToneNet. I forgot the guy's name, but he has like one of the best DC30 patches you can get. And that's what's cool. I can buy this, and then I can download a matchless. I don't have to get a profile that's trying to change the IR to sound like a matchless. I just get the matchless and all it's what it is, onto there. So
I would have never imagined when I was a kid starting to play guitar that amp modeling would be this thing
like
that everybody's just so
Yeah.
excited about. I remember going over to a friend's house, and he had a Line 6 Spider.
Oh, I remember
amp,
those. Yep.
And it had all the different,
yep,
like you had
those were
Crunch and you had Insane and you
Yeah.
had...
Those were I remember those days. Those
that was amp modeling.
Yep, that was it. Yeah, that was back. For me, that was high school. Going to Guitar Center to doink around for hours, annoy everyone, playing "Sweet Child of Mine" through the Line 6 Spider amp.
It's a rite of passage.
Yep. No offense to any of you that love those amps.
Yeah.
They were good in their time, and I'm sure you can still. I don't know what the metalheads say about it. Maybe that's the sound they want.
You know, it's like...
I associate that amp with like metal.
Yeah.
Just
to get here, we needed to start somewhere.
Yeah,
so
sure.
it had to have... had to have its first iteration.
And that just reminds me of how, like, I was so close-minded. 5 years ago, I was like modeling. I was like, yuck, I won't touch that. And that was when the Line 6 stuff was out. I remember my friend telling me about it, and I just turned a smug face, like, no, like, I'll stick with my 2 heavy amps that I carried to my church.
It soured your attitude for the day.
But it's come such a long way. I'm totally the opposite now. I think modeling is... I'm all about it. I still have real amps. Well, I only have one, and I'd never touch it. Someday I should turn it on and play it.
Yeah. I wish that you still had your Benson amps.
It's true.
Because
I missed that. That would have been cool to capture. I used to have a Benson Monarch, and it was a Earhart. Earhart. Yeah. So someday maybe I'll get those. I'll buy them again.
Aside from just being, I mean, they could almost be like decoration in your house. Like they're beautiful amps. Like aside from
we
like
love our Bensons.
Your interior design.
Sure. Yep.
It's such a beautiful piece of equipment.
Well, now I have it in there, so we'll see those soon also. So what we'll do now is we'll run through, we'll do what we did the first time, where we'll change them to kind of sculpt them into what sounds good with this guitar, or what we think sounds good with this guitar. So we'll start with the ACS1. They really just, with the tone match stuff, they just seem to like, when you go off course too much, they just kind of blow up almost. I don't know, or fall apart EQ wise. I don't know.
Yeah, it is hard to get it to
and
to kind of dial into,
Mm-hmm. In the manual, they do say, like, if you need to do EQ changes, not to go too drastic, because it'll go far. It'll change from the voice of the amp. So us changing those might be doing us worse than better. So,
which, if you're somebody who is particular,
if you're a David,
and if you're idealistic for no darn reason, other than what you just think makes sense in your head, you want it to be your own expression.
Yeah,
so and I think that might be the reason why some people don't like amp modeling, is because, well, it's not my expression. I don't want somebody else's capture. I don't want somebody else's this or that. Like, I want to be able to get in there and, and there's fairness to that, but you also, especially when you're playing in an environment like church, you need a lot of controllables.
Yes.
And you need to be able to replicate the sound, at home that you can at church and wherever you're playing,
consistent
and so like it all has to be taken into consideration.
Sure. All right, well, let's check out the Strymon.
So help me out here. When we played the ACS1 with the Vox, we felt like it had more headroom.
More headroom was kind of, yeah. It was the Strymon that was like
Iridium,
boxy,
so
and small sounding.
I don't know why, but I am feeling the opposite now with the Iridium.
Okay.
So maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Maybe it's the settings. Maybe it's the characteristic of the IRs, like the amps. I mean, there's obviously like a chimey Vox is going to sound different than the way that this breaks up.
Yeah.
Maybe it does have something to do with the processing. I don't know. What are you hearing? Maybe it's just I'm hearing more high end clarity or something with the Fender, on the Iridium. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm feeling that with you. I think the Iridium sounds better out of the two, like just more, at that time, more clarity or something, or it's hard to say. And I'm sure we could get to the bottom of it if we just EQ'd the heck out of them and like just did advanced testing.
Yeah.
But we just have so many to go through. We cannot do that, guys.
Yeah.
There's so many pedals here.
Yeah.
Our goal is we're trying to see how consistent they are between the same tone match, which is supposed to be, it's the same amp on all of them. And I feel like that gives a good idea of how they can handle. We could have just left them all at stock, which is another way to do it, but they'd all be completely different amps. And then at that point, it's just which Fender do you like better?
Yeah.
I don't know. So this is just the way we decided to do it. So, but yeah, I think I agree. I think that one just sounded more clear, maybe.
It'll be interesting to watch back and see.
Yeah, that's the fun. That's the fun part.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna go to the big boys.
Okay.
The Dream. He's like, no. Well, all right. Here's the Dream. Oh, and then I better get down because I gotta make the adjustments.
All right.
Boy, that reminds me of the Fender you used to play at church.
Oh man,
it's just the same boominess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that I have the same. I like that. When we're noticing with the Iridium that maybe some of the characteristics of amps are a little different. That maybe the application that you're using the ACS1 and the Iridium in depends a lot. Maybe that's a factor that goes into it, and there is maybe less controllables with, or I don't really know what I'm trying to say, but essentially that the Dream seems to be consistent. Like it was. I feel like it's
everything was no matter where it was.
And even with the fact that the Vox iteration sounded, I liked the ACS1 more than the Iridium. And now I'm hearing something different on the Iridium with the Fender versus the ACS1.
Mm-hmm.
But with the Dream, I think that they both are equally, whether it's the Vox or the Fender, I think that they have equal response and quality and definition and that sort of thing. Like it just seems like it's, again, very well tuned.
They went very extra for them to have separate pedals for each one, almost like they just went full. We're just doing this 1 amp and we're going to focus on that instead of 3 amps and 1 pedal. Another thing I just want to pick about at the Dream is how well you can make it run clean. If you bring the volume down like a real 65 amp, you can get it really neck pick clean. Just like a real amp, the volume's super sensitive. You have to have it really low to get clean, and then when you get up to almost 10 to 11-ish, it just starts to break up already. And if you go past that, I won't even do it, but it'll explode and get fully just driven and mushy.
It sounds really good clean.
Yeah,
it's got the warmth. Maybe that's what it is. All these adjectives, but I think that the Universal Audio. Both of those do a really good job of being warm. They give you that organic.
And it could be the mics they're using too. On all these, we're using 545s, which are more mid-rangey and like they don't carry a lot of the low end. Where these are using I have to look at what these are, but I think they're using like fancy, just high quality mics. Like one might have a Royer 121, which gets a lot of low end, and then another one might be using a different ribbon mic. I don't think they're using... On each of these pedals, I think there's one cab that's using it like an SM57. And it might be this one that we're using. I can't remember, but the manual says it all. So
cool.
Could be the mics. Here is the Tonex. We'll adjust its settings real quick. That was really good.
Sounds so pristine.
Yeah.
It sounds so dialed in. Gosh, I mean, the more that I play it, I am seeing just that refined nature of the Tonex.
That's something to be said. They're both very, very good. It seems like, I'm assuming, well, which one would you pick out of all these that you've played? It's probably between the Dream and the Tonex.
It is, yeah.
As cliche as it sounds, because I'm sure the internet's like, everyone always picks the Universal Audio. I just see it on a lot of boards. I don't know if I speak for everyone.
Well, I owned an Iridium once. I actually owned it before I had the HX Stomp. And, there was a little bit of bias to me about the Iridium and how much I wasn't jamming with it.
You still have those bad memories.
Yeah.
He just bought it one day, and it just for whatever we were doing, we could not get it to sound good. And I think we learned more about EQ since then.
Yeah, and I think, as everyone probably already knows, a brand, the name on the pedal is not a good enough reason.
Yeah, that's what we learned. Sure.
Because, like I said, so growing up, a Line 6 to me was the Line 6 Spider. It was the,
was Line 6,
it was
sure.
it was those, kind of had this reputation, I guess, that came along with the name. But Line 6 has done, they're a huge company, and they've done so much, since then, and very innovative. But because of that, seeing Strymon on it, I was like, oh, I'm probably going to go with the Strymon.
Yeah,
like I'd had the timeline, I'd had the big sky, I had the blue sky before that, and
like everything they make is amazing, so I'm just going to go in and buy this.
Yeah.
Yep, I get that.
But what's nice is that I think it's important to say that it's not that it's a bad pedal.
No.
It's that, you still got to listen to that expression that you have, for music. Like, a reason to not get a pedal, is not always that it's just not good enough, or that it's not, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with it. It could just be that maybe for your expression and your application that it's just not vibing with you. So,
right.
But yeah, I think that the Tonex and the Dream are just so dialed in.
So let's say you can only take one.
Oh man, I'm gonna go with the Universal Audio.
All right, I bet I know why. I think it's the simplicity of it, huh? Yep, there it is. The footprint.
Yep.
It's close enough to what you have, I bet. From the Tonex, I mean.
Yeah. And even just looking at it, like
the aesthetic, it's aesthetically pleasing.
It seems more approachable. Like I don't know, just like I said, it's familiar. It looks like the stack of an amp.
It responds identically to the stack of an amp.
Yeah.
That's their thing. Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm assuming you would.
I'd probably pick the Tonex, and it could be like I said, because I played the Dream and the Ruby for a long time, and I think I just got a little bored. I don't think they're bad. I'm just bored, so I got the Tonex, and I'm vibing on it right now. I'm loving it. Yeah, but we'll see. They both really sound good. I'd be happy with either one. The ACS1's I've been impressed by this too. I used to hate that pedal, so I'm saying after today, I'm like, wow, that's a lot better than I remember. Yeah. And if I had no space, and I see a lot of pros use that still. I've been watching. I'm gonna throw his name out, James Duke. He's a prominent worship guitarist. I just once in a while see his Instagram photos and the boards he has. I think the past few I've seen he has an ACS1, and I'm like, it must be really good if he's playing through that.
Yeah, and I feel like, and I don't know if this was him or somebody else that I was listening to, but somebody talking about, he has a very simple board.
It is.
He's not a MIDI guy.
Yeah, he pushes all the buttons individually.
Yeah.
And he just, every Sunday it looks like he's changed it a little bit when I see photos once in a while.
Yeah. And I feel like I heard him or possibly somebody else saying that they prefer a challenge
when maybe that's what it is.
When they have their pedals, you know what I mean? Like it's this thing that you're constantly almost like not battling with it, but you're constantly searching and looking for it's that constant search that you're
on. So we're going with the Dream for you then, sounds like.
Yeah, I think what it is it's responding really well to what we're throwing at it, and then it's simultaneously inspiring me more, and I'm responding to that, and it's just this really,
you're getting into it.
It's this creative circle or whatever. So I really like it.
All right, cool. So we got the Ruby for all the AC30 effects, and then the Dream for all the Fender effects, which is funny because those two are totally different from the other three amps that we're comparing. Yeah. I don't think the Ruby's considered a core. It's not a Korg. That's like way before that time. And then the Dream is definitely not a ProSonic.
Yeah.
It's a 65. So, but there's something to that. We just threw them in for fun.
Man, I bet they would sound really good together.
Oh, well, I have another video where I do that. Yeah, we could maybe throw that into this one. We'll see.
Okay.
Maybe you'll see it. Last one, guys. All right, so we took the Ruby and the Dream off because we are now going to compare how these all handle the Benson Chimera, which is another tone factor, tone matched setting. And we just can't get that on the Ruby and the Dream. So we'll see how these three handle that and just kind of which one, how they all sound. So we'll do what we did originally. We'll start with the ACS1. We have them all where they're recommended to be stock. Oh, and one last thing. We'll just play clean, and then halfway through I'll turn the drive on and then off. So.
All right.
You weren't wanting to stop. I could tell.
I did not want to stop. No. Wow. I have missed the Benson.
We used to have a Benson. It wasn't a Chimera. It was a Monarch.
Yeah.
But the ear heart was the British voicing, and it kind of sounded like the Chimera, or what I've heard in the videos.
Yeah.
So, that reminds me of it.
Benson is another one of those companies. It's not hype. It's not a joke. It's all real. It's all.
He cuts out all the unnecessary stuff too. Like his circuit, for the Monarch is super simple. I had an amp tech friend of mine had to repair it once. He's like, this is just a modified Fender Tweed or something like that. I could be wrong, but it was like some amp he knew, and he's like, he just cleaned it up a lot and like took all the unnecessary stuff out and added his own. And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. And it's just pure raw, just focused sound. It's kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
He makes great stuff.
I will say that, and maybe this is teaching me that it's less about, the ACS1 or whatever, and more about whatever captures or IRs that they have. Because I will say that the Benson through the ACS1 really has wowed me. Yeah. Just on the first, for the first one that we're trying. And
that happened to me today when I was playing this. That's what made me think, wow, I don't remember the ACS1 sounding this good. It was with the Benson amp in particular, and I was like, this is really good. Yeah. I was actually shocked, and it feels really good too. When I played it, it felt very responsive and real, and just you could dig in. And I was like, wow, if just for that, if you're just gonna buy it to run, I'd just be happy running that one amp on it. Yeah. Like $400-ish just to have the Benson. But that could be said with the Tonex too when we get to that, because they're the same price. But you save a lot more room though with that one. Yeah. So kick her over to the Iridium.
All right.
Yeah.
Strymon, I'm sorry.
That's where I was going.
I'm not coming after you. I'm just
you're like, I'm a simple guitar player. I have no agenda here.
I just it's not speaking the same. There? It's not.
I could hear it. In the room, the ACS1 was boomier and like just more full and punchy, and the Iridium felt just kind of boxed in, I guess.
Yeah. And I'm glad, for not that I want the Iridium to fail or something, but I like that there's some congruency here. That I haven't been a big fan of the Iridium, with the Vox or the Blues, or not the Blues, the Fender one. I did like it a little bit more than the ACS1, but the ACS1 just across the board, very much so, is impressing me. I did not expect that out of it.
It's the smallest one. Literally, that would be like the one. That would be a big thing if I was stuck on room. I'd be looking at that hard.
Okay.
Oh, cool. All right, now we're gonna see how the Tonex, which is an actual. Yeah, we're excited. We'll see with the real capture here. This is the actual capture of the Benson Chimera with the 545 mic. So here we go. So you really dig in there.
Yeah, well, it can take it. You know, I mean, it doesn't feel like I'm. That might actually be part of it with the Iridium, is that it doesn't give me that feeling that I can push it. Like I can really dig in. You know what I mean? Like, and I think it's okay. It's rewarding. The Tonex is very rewarding because when you do, it's you know. You dig in a little bit. I just don't feel like the Iridium is as rewarding with that. But with the Tonex, I can feel it like you would an amp.
Oh, that's the big thing why I'm personally geared toward the Tonex, is more the feel. I feel like it feels very real. They captured that very well.
Yeah.
Something to do with the way they're doing it. I know it uses AI. That's what their marketing says. It's using artificial intelligence to like do something with the amps.
Yeah, I did see the VIR on there. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, they're doing some future magic.
Dang. Well, so out of all three amps, which do you feel like?
It's going to be the ACS1 and the Tonex, and I'll have to hear them again when we tweak, because I almost feel like the ACS1 sounded better, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I mean, we can jump back and forth.
But yeah, let's try it. And we'll tweak them now.
Yeah.
And see what that does. We may make them worse than they are. Let's see. Hopefully not.
Dang.
Yeah, so that was the ACS1.
That's real nice.
And even with all the EQ changes, it just... I think it sounded great with how we left it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it needed to be changed.
Yeah, I think when we first started, strumming, it sounded just exactly where you'd kind of hope to land.
Yeah. All right, we'll try the Iridium.
Okay.
Something about it's just not there compared to, right?
Yeah, I feel like almost like once you get to strumming and then you got effects on it like the El Cap and you got the King of Tone, it almost starts to just kind of like turn into this ball of madness. Just like kind of implodes on itself.
I put more drive on it because I thought maybe that would help, because it seemed a lot cleaner than the ACS1.
Yeah.
But it did not take it very well.
Yeah, which is I feel like I remember when I had the Iridium and we were playing it at church, we felt like it just kind of would break down at some point and it wouldn't handle a bunch of stuff thrown at it. So
sure, and I think I read that there's a point on the drive on the Iridium where it goes past where it would normally go on the amp, so it starts like trying to think what would happen if the amp could go further, and we may have passed that point. I think it's at like 12 o'clock or 2 or 1, somewhere around there. So it's interesting. They give you more gain than the real amps do.
Yeah,
so
that's weird.
That could be having a factor. All right, let's try it with the Tonex.
tons of clarity compared to the Iridium. Yeah, it retains more of the, I guess, kind of your clean tone.
Yeah.
You know.
Sure. Yeah. Let's maybe we should jump back and forth between the ACS1 real quick and then that one.
Yeah. Very similar.
Yeah. They did a good job with that one for the tone matching.
Yeah, I felt like the ACS1, I felt like it was kind of a similar scenario that we found when we were bouncing back and forth between the Universal Audio and the Tonex. Mm-hmm. Felt like the ACS1 ended up being a little bit more like warm and untamed, and the Tonex was just very, like you said, focused, very
I noticed it was more gritty. I felt like I heard like a more sizzle on it, like a gritty.
Yeah.
Probably like the real amp, if I recall.
Maybe a little cleaner with the ACS1.
Mm-hmm. But they both sound killer.
Yeah, I mean, especially even when you had the King of Tone on, bouncing back and forth between them was pretty close.
Yeah, so I think what I got out of that is if you just want a Benson Chimera and you want it in a small little box, I'd be totally content with that. And one thing I forgot to mention, most of you watching probably know, but some of you probably don't, is you can run 2 amps on that side by side. None of these other pedals we've tested let you do that. So you could literally run the Benson that we just heard on one side of the ACS1 and then run the ProSonic on the other side, and then you could have them in stereo, one different amp on each for the $400 or whatever that it costs. That's pretty darn good.
Wow.
For the size,
especially for in just one unit,
Yeah.
That's
So I'd say, good job, Walrus Audio, for being able to pack all that into something so small, and then also tone factor for the quality of the tone match IRs. They've done a good job, especially on the ACS1. Yeah, so out of the two, I don't, in case you didn't say, which one would you pick?
This out of between the Tonex and the ACS1?
Between the Tonex and the ACS1 for the Benson. If you were like, I had to have a Benson.
I honestly would go with the ACS1. Man, I'm just, I'm going off the rails, but it...
He's a true pedal man.
Well, it's so cool to me that you can do 2 separate amps right next to each other there, and in such a small, literally less than half of the size of that. It's very powerful.
Yeah, and I don't even think I told you. It has a built-in boost right here too.
Oh wow!
So you can boost the amps, turn that on and off with that button, and it has MIDI. On the top, I don't think you saw that. You can have MIDI hooked up, so you can switch all your amps with your MIDI controller, all your presets, and then you can have your MIDI controller activate that boost. So you can have this way in the back, and then just hit like a button up front to boost it.
Can you control how much it's boosting your amp? Is that...
Yeah, the boost, there's a level. You can pre-program how much boost and then save that as the preset. So then when you click it on and off, it's set to the amount of boost that you want.
Man.
So they put a lot into that little
thing. And like I was saying earlier, I love just that extra amp drive. So if you can do, if I can do a boost, I mean
that would push it
that's
further.
A huge selling point. Honestly, I'm very impressed by the ACS1. I knew little to nothing about it, coming into this, as I did pretty much with all of them. But that one has really impressed me.
So it sounds like you're either going to get the Ruby and Dream as a combo, or you may want to save the money and get the ACS1 just to run 2 amps as well for half the price.
I could go crazy and you could do one of each. You know, like you could do the ACS1, you could do either.
Oh, you could run an ACS1 as like your Benson, and then run it alongside the Universal Audio Dream for your if you're really extra.
Yeah.
Which is he's like me. He's extra. That's why I have 2 Tonex pedals.
Yeah.
And I can't be happy with just one. I even ran 2 Iridiums at one point.
It's always, you gotta double up.
Yep, exactly. All right, so I think that concludes our video. Anyways, yeah, once again, this is David. Let me know if you like having him around. We can have him on more videos. We're probably already gonna do that, but yeah. We'll as his pedal board builds out, we'll have him on again and have him show it off. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. See you.